Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday. It is still Dungeon Crawler Month, and this week we're going to take a look at one from a few years back. Actually, it's not just a dungeon crawler, but rather a randomized dungeon crawling, world exploring town management RPG all in one. Heroes of a Broken Land was developed and published by Winged Pixel Inc., and released on Steam on August 7th, 2014. It is available on Steam for $14.99 US, and a demo is available that allows you to play with only limitation being that heroes are capped at level 6. The footage for this review was once again taken from the demo version. Heroes of a Broken Land is a turn-based multi-genre RPG with a focus on exploring a randomized world. The basic premise is that some powerful wizards once tapped into the planet's mystical core, using its powers to bring peace and prosperity to all. But as they did, their human nature corrupted the planet itself, until it exploded. Holy shit. Now frozen into crystals, these immortal wizards are lodged into various pieces of the planet, with the intention of reuniting it. Since they can't affect things directly themselves, they recruit parties of heroes to work in their name. At the beginning of the game, you can select a world size and difficulty, then a particular wizard, which gives you various bonuses based on which wizard you select. After this, you create your first party. You get 4 characters in your first party with randomly generated names, features, and ability scores. You can't change these, having to take whoever's available, but you do get a few rerolls. Use them wisely, because the rerolls you get are for your entire initial party. Once you've assigned them classes, you are dropped into the game proper. Immediately it becomes clear that this isn't just another dungeon crawler. You start in a hex grid-based randomly generated world, near to a central town. Thus begins one of the game's 3 main phases. In the world, your party can move around at a set movement rate, with each hex taking a certain amount of points to move into. When all of your parties, and yes, you can have multiple parties, have exhausted their movement, you can end the turn. On that map, you will see various settlements, towns, event tiles, dungeons, and encounters. Moving over to them can allow your party to interact with them, getting quests, interacting with NPCs, encountering enemies, or entering dungeons to explore. As you explore, you will reveal more of the map, and if you move onto water, your party will embark on a ship, although this costs a considerable amount of movement. The second major part of the game is actually something that will only take a fraction of playtime. You can construct buildings in towns you controlled in order to provide goods and services to your parties. These buildings can be upgraded, offering greater gear over time. You may also recruit other heroes at your main town in order to flesh out your main party or create other parties entirely. Unfortunately, you only get a few new characters each turn, and those already have their ability scores rolled, although you can actually select their class. Some of these characters started better than first level, and those cost commensurately more. You can have up to 6 characters in each party, with up to 6 parties simultaneously exploring the world. Indeed, some dungeons and events require multiple parties just to activate. The final major part of the game is dungeon exploration, which is a first-person, turn-based, step-based dungeon crawl experience. It seems that the dungeon levels are generated on the fly, and some dungeons are drastically more involved and difficult than others. Even random monster encounters on the overworld map open into large square areas that use the same dungeon engine as the rest. Exploration of dungeons is pretty similar to most old-school dungeon crawlers, with each step taking a turn, and the ability to interact with switches and doors with the mouse, as well as pick things up off the floor. Some walls have secret door catches, and some dungeons contain interactable items, like ability score modifying pools, treasure chests, and traps. Oh, so many traps. When you run into various enemies and groups of enemies, combat starts in a turn-based, initiative-based method reminiscent of the old wizardry games. Characters can attack, use skills or spells, and use items. Each character and monster moves in turn, and while there's no limit on rear-rank characters being able to attack the front or not, targets are prioritized according to which column they're in. Characters and monsters on the right attack their opponents on the same side, and combatants on the left do likewise. Only when one side or the other is cleared do they switch attacks to the other side. Combat is exceedingly simple, and there's an auto-attack option that just runs through attacks with the basic swings all the way through. However, in any sort of challenging dungeon, you're going to want to take control yourself and use skills to augment your abilities. Although you can't really select the targets of your effects, You can usually predict where they will land using the column-based prioritization that's built into the game. All classes get to select from their class's abilities as they level up, and each level up grants an additional 5 ability score points to distribute. In addition, you can purchase tomes and special skills in town, or find said tomes in treasure, meaning that if you want, you can teach even your fighters certain spell skills. All draw on the same resource, magic, whether they are physical skills or spells. As you find loot, you can gather gold and crystals, which are used to purchase items in shops, as well as to upgrade your buildings. Other loot can include weapons and armor, which can bear certain random enchantments, some more useful than others. All in all, dungeon crawling is exactly what you'd expect of this sort of game, typical all the way through. There's an auto-map system with the same you must be in the same square limitation as many others, and quests usually involve killing a certain number of enemies, which is actually groups of enemies, since these enemies you encounter can include a few different individuals within them. Graphically, Heroes of the Broken Land adopts an old-school pixel style, which is alright. Things are represented well, and it's not so low-res that it's unpleasant to look at. Still, there's only so much you can do with this style of graphics, and I'm not 100% that it will capture the same nostalgic charm that it's aiming for with everybody. Further, this doesn't carry well over into the dungeon walls, although they are certainly sprinkled with enough set dressing and decorations to provide some variety to look at. The music is a mix of classical-sounding piano tracks, and while none of it is particularly outstanding, they tend to get old after a while, and you'll probably want to shut them down. So Heroes of a Broken Land is a very neat concept, and passable in execution, but it is not without its faults. The interface, for instance, is downright atrocious, and the graphics don't quite click, at least for me. Gameplay-wise, the combat is just a little too simplified sometimes, at least from what I experienced, and the town management is dead simple. That having been said, this is not a bad game. This is one of those games that is definitely better than the sum of its parts. Some may say it was trying to do too many things at once, and I will grant that, but still, it delivers an experience that is hard to find in many other games. It does randomization reasonably well. It does exploration well, and the combat is passable. Now, I know this game's been out for a while, and there are a growing number of games that can do what this one tries to do, but it may still be worth taking a look at. And hell, there's a demo version available, so you can tinker around with it before committing. So I will leave it at that. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday, Heroes of a Broken Land. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you've got feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content. If you like what I've been doing with the channel, either on the tabletop or computer RPG arm of it, consider supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/rpgcrawler or through the links at the end of the video. Until next time, take care and goodbye.